Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us on May 15th, 2024. Before the formal meeting of the City Council convenes, we will have the Park Central Community Facilities District Board meeting. I'll call that to order. Will the clerk call the roll?
Board Member Conlon. Board Member Galindo Elvira.
Here.
Board Member Gervais.
Here.
Board Member Guardado. Board Member Hodge Washington.
Here.
Board Member O'Brien.
Here.
Board Member Pastor.
Here.
Board Member Robinson.
Here.
Board Member Waring. Vice Chair Stark. Here. Chairwoman Gallego.
Here. Item number 3 is the fiscal year budget and proposed 5-year financial forecast. Board Member Conlon, do you have a motion on item 3?
Yes, I move passage of both matters.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Conlon.
Here. Yes.
Galindo Elvira.
Yes.
Gervais.
Yes.
Guardado. Yes. Hodge Washington.
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Waring. Stark.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 11-0.
Thank you. We are now adjourned. We'll begin the next section of our meeting with an invocation from Fire Captain Troy Holtorf.
Okay, can I get myself organized?
Would you all pray with me? Our Father in heaven, as we begin this meeting, help us to remember you. Remind us of who you are. You are a faithful God. Even when we are faithless, you are faithful, always, to the end. You never grow tired or weary. You never sleep or slumber. You are an ever-present help, God. You are merciful and gracious, slow to anger, abounding in love and faithfulness. This is why we make time to pray and honor you, Father. You hold the answers. You are the hope that we need in this city. So God, please help us. Restore us, Father. Lead us to still waters and green pastures. May this be our posture and the orientation of our hearts as we commence this meeting. May your will be carried out today. And may we be your people who say, in God we trust. It's in Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Captain. Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
Flag of the United States, to the republic for which it stands, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mayor, this is Steve Gervais. Can you hear me?
Thank you, Steve. We could hear you make a comment, but I could not hear what it was.
Well,
think
I just
we are-
want to thank, yes, this is aside from the CFD board matters, but I wanted to take the opportunity since I had the council, full council there and most of the city staff. I'm at Osna Manor and we had a ribbon cutting last week. And I want to thank you all personally on behalf of St. Vincent de Paul for your involvement, participation. I know Councilwoman Washington was there and many of the staff were present. And I just want to say thanks for all your support, and the project is going well.
Thank you so much and congratulations. We'll now call to order the formal meeting of the Phoenix City Council. Will the clerk call the roll?
Councilman Galindo Elvira.
Here.
Councilwoman Guardado.
Here.
Councilwoman Hodge Washington.
Here.
Councilwoman O'Brien.
Here.
Councilwoman Pastor.
Here.
Councilman Robinson.
Here.
Councilman Waring. Vice Mayor Stark.
Here.
Mayor Gallego.
Here. Mario Barajas and Elsie Duarte are with us to provide Spanish interpretation. Mario, would you introduce your team?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. Hello, good afternoon. My name is Mario Barajas, and together with my colleague Elsie Duarte, we'll be serving as today's Spanish interpreters for our meeting. Now, I'll take the time to introduce ourselves to our Spanish-speaking audience. Muy buenas tardes, yo soy Mario Barajas y junto con mi colega Elsie Duarte estaremos sirviéndoles como intérprete a los de habla hispana el día de hoy. Quisiéramos compartir con ustedes brevemente unos puntitos en lo cual se les pide si acaso van a estar dando un comentario público. Por favor, si pueden hablar de una manera clara y también hablar de una manera de que su voz sea audible y hacer pausas. Y finalmente pedimos de que se eviten distracciones de fondo. De esa manera vamos a poder interpretarles de la mejor manera posible. Gracias. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you so much. I'll now turn to our city attorney to explain public comment.
Thank you, Mayor. Members of the public may speak for up to 2 minutes to comment on agenda items. Comments must be related to the agenda item and the action being considered by the council. General comments that go beyond the scope of the agenda item must be made in the citizen comment session at the end of the agenda. The City Council and staff cannot discuss or comment on matters related to pending investigations, claims, or litigation. Additionally, any member of the public who appears before council in their capacity as a lobbyist must, as required by Phoenix City Code, disclose this fact before addressing council. The City Code requires speakers to present their comments in a respectful and courteous manner. Profane language, threats, or personal attacks on members of the public, council members, or staff are not allowed. A person who violates these rules will lose the opportunity to continue to speak.
Thank you. I'll turn to the city clerk to read the 24-hour paragraph.
The titles of the following ordinance and resolution numbers on the agenda were available to the public at least 24 hours prior to this council meeting and therefore may be read by title or agenda item only. Ordinance number G 7257 through 7262, S 50843 through 50885, and resolutions 22196 and 22201 through 22209.
Thank you. We'll next move to the meeting minutes. Councilman Waring, do you have a motion on item 1?
Yes, Mayor. I move to approval of the minutes for Wednesday, November 17th, 2021.
Second.
Comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Vice Mayor, do we have a motion on item 2?
Yes, I move to approve December 1st, 2021 minutes.
Second.
Comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Passes unanimously. Councilwoman Pastor, do you have a motion on item 3?
Yes, I move item number 3 of 12/15/2020.
Second.
Comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Passes unanimously. Councilwoman Hodge Washington, do you have a motion on item 4?
Yes, I do. I move that we adopt the November 15, 2023 formal minutes.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Passes unanimously. Boards and commissions, item 5. Vice Mayor, do we have a motion?
Yes, motion to approve mayor and city council boards and commission nominations.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any comments? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? Not see anyone to be sworn in today, so we will go to the liquor license portion of our agenda. The City Council provides an advisory role to the state of Arizona. Vice Mayor.
Yes, I move to approve items 6 through 24.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Passes unanimously. City Clerk, are we ready for ordinances, resolution, new business, planning, and zoning?
Yes, Mayor.
Vice Mayor, do we have a motion?
I move to approve items 25 through 104, except the following. Items 44, 60, 61, 62, 63, 90, 101, 102, 103, and 104. Noting that item 45 is being continued to June 26, 2024. Item 64 is requested to be withdrawn. Item 103 has additional information. Item 104 is an add-on. And can the clerk confirm if there's any other items that should be excluded for in-person public comment?
Mayor, Vice Mayor, no other items need to be excluded.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any corrections? Roll call.
Galindo Elvira,
Yes.
Guardado,
Yes.
Hodge Washington,
Yes.
O'Brien,
Yes.
Pastor,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Waring,
Yes.
Stark,
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 9-0.
We next move to item 44, which is a public hearing. This is related to the local alternative expenditure limit for the November 5th, 2024 ballot. We will open the public hearing. Do not have any members of the public to comment, so we will close the public hearing. I now recess the formal meeting and call to order the May 15th, 2024 special meeting of the Phoenix City Council. Will the clerk call the roll?
Councilman Galindo Elvira,
Here.
Councilwoman Guardado, Councilwoman Hodge Washington,
Here.
Councilwoman O'Brien,
Here.
Councilwoman Pastor,
Here.
Councilman Robinson,
Here.
Councilman Waring, Vice Mayor Stark,
Here.
Mayor Gallego.
Here. We are now on item 1 of the special meeting, the adoption of the local alternative expenditure limitation for referral to the electors of the City of Phoenix, Resolution 22209. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. This is an important resolution that allows our voters to allow the city to set our budget based on our available resources. Really very important to the continuing function of the city. We go through this every 4 years. A huge thank you to the advisory committee, including Brian Willingham, who is here today. Any comments? Roll call.
Galindo Elvira,
Yes.
Guardado,
Yes.
Hodge Washington,
Yes.
O'Brien,
Yes.
Pastor,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Waring, Stark,
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 9-0.
The special meeting is now adjourned, and I reconvene the May 15th, 2024 formal council meeting. Do we have a motion as to the order of the meeting?
I move to suspend the meeting rules and take 104 out of order and hear it next.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Motion passes unanimously. Item 104 is related to the Central Station naming, and it is an item brought forward to name it for Greg Stanton. Nearly a decade ago, Mayor Greg Stanton decided that when it came to transit, it was time to go big. He brought together the city council and community to write and ultimately approve an increase and extension of our dedicated local transportation investment, a $32 billion plan to improve our transit system. Transit 2050, which was Proposition 104 on the ballot, secured our transit funding base until the year 2050. I was honored that then Mayor Stanton asked me to chair that campaign, which was passed by the voters. Phoenix is one of the six cities in the region whose dedicated transportation tax funds our local transportation needs. Local funding is essential because Arizona is one of the few states in the nation where the state does not have funding dedicated to public transportation. Since entering public office, improving local bus service, paratransit, and the formation of high-capacity transit have been top of mind for Greg Stanton. I am proud to support the naming of the Central Station redevelopment project planned for 300 North Central Avenue for the Greg Stanton Central Station, and am excited to recognize his service. He has also been a longtime advocate for our downtown, and this is a project that helps improve and connect our downtown. We are recommending we follow a similar process to the one we used at the City of Phoenix when naming the most recent terminal for Senator John McCain, which would send that recommendation to the Heritage Commission for review and recommendation. Greg's vision has improved multiple modes of transportation citywide, including bus, light rail, paratransit, streets, bike lanes, and active transportation. When Central Station is operational next year, it will provide important connectivity and trips, including half a dozen local bus routes. It will also provide access to the Dash Circulator, a designated space for dial-a-ride paratransit service, multiple rapid and express bus routes, and an ASU intercampus shuttle. Light rail service will be augmented with the opening of the South Central Light Rail Station, which will extend service to Central and Baseline. The Greg Stanton Central Station will not only serve as a major transit hub for the community, but will stand as the city's primary downtown bus and light rail transit center. This is one of multiple transit centers we have named, most recently for Thelda Williams, who served as both councilwoman and mayor. And in addition to the Ed Pastor Transit Center at Central and Broadway, which is an operating transit center with beautiful historic building and tens of thousands of dollars of art. It will continue to remain a transit center unless this council decides otherwise, and I think we have no intention of doing that. We want to grow the importance of the light rail and open and expand more activities. Today is about honoring some of the people who, today is about honoring an individual who has helped improve the city and our transit system. Greg Stanton was an excellent mayor whose leadership improved the lives of those who live there, and I believe it is exciting and great opportunity to honor him and his legacy. We'll next go for a motion.
Mayor, I move to request that staff start the process for the Heritage Commission to review naming the Transit Central Station Center after Greg Stanton and to come back to the City Council with a recommendation. I have additional comments after the motion receives a second, Mayor.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion in 2 seconds. We'll recognize, I think I heard Councilman Robinson first, and I'll go back to Councilman O'Brien for comments.
Thank you so much. I am excited to make the motion to honor former Mayor and current Congressman Greg Stanton with a request to the Heritage Commission to consider naming the new Central Station the Greg Stanton Central Station. Although I am on the other side of the political aisle from my friend, many of the actions Congressman Stanton took as mayor are things we do see eye to eye on. His support for public safety, his dedication to our parks and preserves, and his understanding of the needed revenue streams for future city needs and growth. I value all the groundwork he laid during his time as mayor and as a council member in Phoenix that led to the building blocks like investing in biosciences, which has created the vibrant and innovative stretch of 7th Street from Roosevelt to Van Buren, and focusing on increasing the trade between Mexico and Phoenix by helping to open the first trade office in Hermosillo, Mexico. This council is able to build off of those building blocks and continue making America's 5th largest city successful. As mayor, Congressman Stanton was a strong supporter of public transit and led the effort to help create the T2050 plan, which lays out the Valley's public transit system for the coming decades. It only seems fitting that council honor former Mayor Stanton by naming the upcoming Central Hub the first transit center to feature the light rail and bus connection, the Greg Stanton Central Station. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I support this, and I will tell you why. I was at the Thelda Williams grand opening, and Greg spoke, and I was quite moved by what he had to say, and it reminded me that he has done just as much as Thelda has done for light rail. He's had a strong commitment, and he still has it in Congress. He's always trying to help us with funding. And I think we should honor all of our mayors for some of the great things they've done. And this is probably one that stood out for Mayor Stanton. I am very supportive of the idea, and I hope that we pursue looking at other, whether it's a park or another light rail station, for some of our former mayors who've done so much for our city. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Waring?
At John McCain's memorial service at the National Cathedral, Barack Obama got up and said, you know, John always did have a sense of humor, and he's having a joke right now by making George Bush and me stand up here and say nice things about him. I like that line, actually. And being a Republican, I don't know that I've ever quoted Barack Obama, so there's a first time for everything. But I was thinking about that quote last week when the mayor and Seth Scott from our office handed me a letter saying a bunch of wonderful things about light rail. So anybody who knows anything about me thought that might be out of pocket for me to sign, but I was happy to do it for former Mayor Stanton. I thought this is a very worthy honor for him. Just a couple quick things. But By the time I'm done, I've been on this council for about 15 and a half years, which will be a quarter of my lifespan at that point. Greg's a year or two younger than me, and I think he's done at least 16 years, so he'll have spent a quarter of his life, plus obviously his other public service, in support of the city. He always worked hard. He was always fair with me and a gentleman. I thought he was a very good public servant, even if on some issues like light rail I might disagree. And I definitely thought this was a worthy honor for him, for what has really been for him, you know, pretty much a lifetime of service for Phoenicians. And I thought that should be respected. I guess across party aisle, I didn't think that was a factor. I definitely thought this was something that he had earned through really hard work, and it was a worthy acknowledgement of his efforts, and I appreciate you bringing that forward, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Robinson.
Mayor, thank you very much. You know, I support this particular motion also because I think Congressman Stanton truly is deserving of this honor. I had the opportunity to work with Greg going back to when he was first in office as a city council person in District 6. I was with the police department. And the one thing that I think is most important that has always stood out about Greg is that he always considered what was best for the community. He was always about the community. He was always about not just the community and the residents in District 6, but in Phoenix as a whole. And what we have seen since his time in Congress is that same heartfelt desire to do the right things for the right reasons. You know, and for all of these reasons and for all the years I've known him, I just think it is the right thing to do at the right moment, at the right location. So I fully support this motion. Mayor, thank you very much.
Mayor.
Thank you. Councilwoman Pastor.
I'd like to acknowledge the mayor, council members, staff, and most importantly, the residents of the city of Phoenix. History has shown that naming of a building, monuments, or streets has its fair share of controversy. Recently, prior City of Phoenix council members and the mayor changed the name of Squaw Peak to Piestewa Peak to honor the memory of a fallen Arizona soldier. And it was the right action to take. Today, we are discussing the naming of a significant economic development hub. I believe it is an immense honor to name a government-owned building for individuals from our community who are admired and who have made an everlasting impact in lives of many. To share a brief journey through history, Ed Pastor was the first Mexican-American elected to represent the state of Arizona in Congress beginning in 1991. He is also my father. While the congressman was known to be a workhorse, not a show horse, he was also one of the most prolific members of Congress to bring resources to his community and to the state. This is a fact and one that is important to remember. The congressman brought billions of dollars to Arizona and to the city of Phoenix through public transportation projects such as the light rail. Light rail was one system that connected communities and transformed the trajectory of economic development in Phoenix, Tempe, and Mesa. Before light rail, workers in my district and in other districts felt left out of a cultural renaissance and a development in downtown Phoenix. Light rail changed all of that. Light rail and bus systems are not simply lines that run from point A to point B. You see, these transportation systems are economic development pieces, connectors of communities, which Congressman Pastor led. They changed the lives of many Phoenicians. To recognize Congressman Pastor's efforts in this arena, the city named South Phoenix Transportation Hub in his name. For years, Latinos, especially our young people who are of Latino descent, had the opportunity to see one of their own community members honored for his work in bringing more resources to our city. Today begins the process and recommendation to name the new Central station, absent a Congressman Pastor. I am here not as a daughter, but as a person who wants to make sure that history is not forgotten. Just like the naming of Barry Goldwater, John McCain, and Lincoln Ragsdale will not be forgotten. As documented, the current Ed Pastor bus station hub will be repurposed. An RFP will be issued with the intent to add housing and the intent of housing and the building to be blended. My contention is that the new transportation facility, a hub for both light rail and business systems, should have the name of Ed Pastor to carry the history and to preserve it. Some say that this matter is trivia. Some say there's already too many buildings named after him. I say that history is never trivial, especially history that resulted in a dramatic shift in our city's economic development and community connection through the advocacy, lobbying, and putting in countless of hours of work by Congressman Pastor in order to bring resources to our city. I have several questions, but I can wait.
Mayor?
Councilwoman Guardado.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to make a substitute motion to start the process for the Heritage Commission to review naming the Transit Center after Congressman Ed Pastor or Congressman Greg Stanton to come back to City Council with a recommendation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We'll go to public comment now. Sonia Gomez, followed by Mary Durand. Nope, not there. And do we have Mary? Do we have Mary Rose Wilcox? All right. Brian Fernandez.
Thank you so much, Mayor and Council. Very nice to speak before you today. I'm Brian Fernandez, and until the voters decide to kick me out, I represent Southwestern Arizona in the Arizona Senate. I just want to speak today on this particular issue. I would like just to talk for one moment about Ed Pastor and the influence he's had on so many people throughout Arizona. He is someone that I would not be here personally without him, and I know my mother, who preceded me, and she's now head of USDA Arizona, would not be where she is either. Ed Pastor inspired so many. One thing that Greg Stanton's an old family friend, and I very much appreciate everything that he's done, and I really count him as one of my dear friends. Ed Pastor was on appropriations his first term, which is, anyone that knows about Congress, is unheard of. No one ever gets on appropriations first term. Congressman Stanton, I believe, is in his fourth term and may get it next year. He did that by building coalitions amongst many people. And even once he was on appropriations, he built coalitions to bring so much to Arizona. I mean, we see it here in Phoenix, but we've also see it throughout Arizona. I just, me personally, and the people that elect me would very much like to see Ed Pastor be named as, or the building be named for him. And I did submit a letter for the record signed by several legislators. I just found out about this earlier today, but I talked to a few people, and we signed the letter, and so you have that, and hopefully it'll be on record. Thank you so much, and it's so great to see so many friends on council.
Thank you. Petra Falcone is next, followed by Sonia Pastor.
Well, good afternoon, Mayor and Council, and thank you for this opportunity to speak today, and I know there's a 2-minute limit. I first want to thank each and every one of you for your public service, because that's what I think we're doing here today. It's honoring not only Ed Pastor, but also Congressman Stanton, which today is not about not letting Greg Stanton get his time in the limelight. But what we are doing is really preserving the history and the narrative of this state. And as Councilman Laura Pastor said, he was our first Latino in the state of Arizona to be elected to Congress. Now, but the point I want to make is that we are honoring Congressman Pastor for his legacy, for his gifts, not only to Maricopa County, but to Yuma County and to Pima County, and probably other areas that I don't know about. I first encountered Yuma County and with Congressman Pastor out there working with farm workers, and they have the best funded military base in Yuma County because of Congressman Pastor and multiple other projects in Yuma County. So the point that I want to make today is that when my children grow up and my grandchildren grow up, I want all of us to be able to point to buildings that recognize the service, the public service and sacrifice of public life leaders like yourselves. And I would hope that one day you all want to be in that situation and not want to have it displaced by somebody else's request. We found out yesterday that this item was going to be added to the bottom of the agenda today, and thank you for moving it up to forward, Mayor and Council, because I do think we need to give it its time today. But again, I just want each and every one of you to remember that one day you will be in the same situation where you want your community to recognize your public service, and that's why we're here today. We want Congressman Pastor's life and legacy to be preserved so that all your future children, all future citizens of the city of Phoenix will recognize him. Thank you.
Thank you. Sonia Pastor is next, followed by Tiffany Pastor.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mayor and City Council. I'm going to try and make this as brief as I can because I know I have a time limit. Obviously, my name is Sonia Pastor. The congressman is my uncle. Laura Pastor is my cousin, and Congressman Greg Stanton is a very good friend of mine. He, in fact, gave a tour of the Capitol in Washington, D.C. last week for my son and my nephew. My comments are not about Greg Stanton. As I stated, he is a friend, and obviously he is a very accomplished member of Congress, and he has done great things for our community. This is about preserving the history of a great man, a man who ensured that we had transit services in this city. The reason why we have light rail is because of Congressman Pastor. What I have not mentioned is that prior to my current career, I worked for Valley Metro. I was a consultant, and I was responsible for assisting with the outreach for the light rail extension in South Phoenix and Cap I-10. Working with the former CEO of Valley Metro, the city manager, Mario Paniagua, Maria Hyatt, who is now retired, and several other individuals in the city of Phoenix, we came to the conclusion and made a recommendation to extend the light rail to downtown and then to Cap I-10. Included in those discussions was the fact that the central station in South Phoenix its purpose would have to change. And therefore, the former CEO, along with city staff, recommended that the Central City Light Rail Station would become the Ed Pastor Station in preservation of Central City. I recall this because we had several conversations, and city staff was very concerned because this included federal funding. What I ask is that you continue this motion and you offer stakeholders the appropriate opportunity to participate in this conversation. Thank you.
Tiffany Pastor is followed by Robert Pastor.
Good afternoon, Council and Mayor. I have the good fortune to have married my husband, Robert Pastor. My given name is Tiffany Lucero. I'm an Arizona native, and I have witnessed firsthand what the Congressman Ed Pastor and what the Congressman Greg Stanton have done for this state and for this community. They both deserve recognition. The method in which that I have even just heard here today, by which the current building is being sought to be named, I think creates a basis for pause. And I think that there needs to be some pause to investigate how we got here and to remember our history and remember what work was done, not just by Congressman Pastor, but by Congressman Pastor in conjunction with Mayor Greg Stanton. I think it's important not to act hastily. I think it's important to pause. That is all.
Robert Pastor is next, followed by Verma Pastor.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council. My name is Robert Pastor. I'm a lawyer with the law firm Montoya, Lucero, and Pastor. And I'm here really for my Aunt Verma. And she's here because with her husband, they dedicated their lives to improving this community, to serving the people of Arizona. Our family's been in this part of the country since the 1860s, and I have seen lots of new people come to town, plant their flag and say, we're going to create change. We're going to make a difference. And everyone can get their chance and they can do that. But I want to make sure that this council preserves history. Because my uncle, his brother, others like Danny Ortega, Ronnie Lopez, they started a movement in the 70s to give voice to Latinos, to make sure that we were heard. And today that movement continues, right? We're not just farm workers and cooks and people who clean people's houses. We are doctors, we are lawyers, we are congressmen. I want my children to be raised in this city, and I want them to go and see buildings and say, hey, that's a brown boy just like me. He made a difference. Like my wife just said, I think we need to kind of look a little more closely about how we got here and why we're here, how this came to be. This is not, Greg Stanton is a wonderful human being. He continues to do wonderful work for this city, for the people of Arizona. I'm concerned that instead of acknowledging history, we're trying to rewrite it. Because we know that when this light rail was planned, it was planned on a big scale, and we know that some buildings were going to become obsolete as the city continued to grow. So I'm going to ask you to please, like my wife said, take a pause. Let's look at the facts, and let's make sure we preserve history, not alternative facts.
Verma Pastor is next, followed by Reina.
How are you? Good to see you. Thank you, Mayor Gallego and Phoenix City Council. I am Verma Pastor, wife of the late Congressman Ed Pastor. As you know, the Congressman was instrumental in securing federal funding for Maricopa County and the city of Phoenix for bus and light rail projects. This journey started as early as in the 1990s, with the Congressman securing funding until the city received a full funding grant agreement from the Federal Transit Agency in 2005. So there was a lot of years in between where he provided the funding. The Congressman continued to support the city and county in bringing to fruition 3 key transportation initiatives, resulting in the Phoenix 2000 plan in 2015. Ed's allegiance to the city and to this project continued post-retirement from Congress, as he served as the first chair of the City Transportation Commission, which led the way to the 2050 plan. Along this journey, several of you in the community, including elected officials, staff, and committee members, have personally stated to me the plan to move the Congressman's name from the transit agency at South Central location to the Central location, as eventually the South Central location will be shuttered. I understand and appreciate Congressman Stanton's work in Congress and as mayor, because he as a congressman worked in tandem. However, Ed was instrumental in securing the initial federal dollars close to $500 million. According to actual House Committee appropriation reports from 1999 to 2014, the Congressman solidified $425.5 million for light rail and an additional $56 million for busing projects. Thank you, and I humbly ask you to include Congressman Ed Pastor's name for consideration, naming the Transit Center to the Heritage Commission. Thank you.
Thank you. Reina is next, followed by Ricardo.
Thank you, City Council board members. I'm not a politician, and I don't like it to be in the way to be learning things in the way I've been learning today. I'm a first voted in my family as a Mexican. I come in this country and I love the process. One of the things I be learning when I become a citizen, there was Ed Pastor teaching our children so many things. He come into our schools, he come into our communities, and recognize people like him is very big for our community as a first voters. One of the things I also learning is the due process. And I think so in here, the due process, they is not working in the right way. Because as a taxpayer in this country, in this community, in this city, I never learning about this issue until today. And this is why I was in my doctor appointment and I coming over here because for me, it's not fair to don't let the community know what it is happening. And I don't say Stanton is not right person, he's an amazing man. But I think so legacy in here and the work for the men. He was working for many, many years to bring to this city so many funds. It's not right what it is doing in here right now. Thank you, and I do appreciate it to have the consideration to have it our community to come in and speak up in this issue, not coming and pass by like always. Please, this is not an issue they need to be a big hug for the next person because this is coming. We need to have consideration in our community, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ricardo is next.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ricardo. I'm a resident of West Phoenix, and I'm here today to oppose this because I believe that it is wrong for us to take a transit center, which is going to be at the heart of our city, which, as was mentioned earlier, is being redeveloped and is going to be improved, and for it to not used to be to honor Congressman Ed Pastor, who really the whole reason why we have light rail is because of him. And so I think it's a mistake, and I think some of the folks on the council may not have understood how much of really a slap in the face this is to Chicanos here in Phoenix when you make this type of proposal. Again, I want to reiterate what a lot of people said here. This isn't about Greg Stanton. You know, I am a supporter of Congressman Greg Stanton. I will continue to support Greg Stanton. And if there's another transit center that is going to be named after him, I'll be happy to support that as well. But I think this particular transit center, like we heard before, was understood to be named after Ed Pastor. And for those of you that don't know, I've spent some time working here at City Council, and through my conversations with staff, it was understood that this was going to be named the Ed Pastor Transit Center. So the fact that it's being changed now, that is why I consider this a slap in the face to our Chicano history here. And so I want to caution our council members before they make the decision to vote in favor of this, just what type of impact and what that says to Chicanos here in Phoenix. So keep that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes public comment.
Mayor?
Vice Mayor.
Can I guess I'm confused because we have an Ed Pastor Transit Center, and I did not realize there's discussion of changing it or closing it down. Could I get confirmation on that? And then the discussion of naming this particular station after Congressman Pastor, I don't recall us ever being briefed on that. Maybe I wasn't briefed, but I don't remember. But what's happening right now with the current transit center? Thank you.
Mayor, members of the council, I'm Mario Paniagua, Deputy City Manager. And just to give some insight on the current transit center, and along with me here is Jesus Sapien, the Public Transit Director. So the current Ed Pastor Transit Center at Central and Broadway Road, thank you, has been a transit center for several years. And however, there have been changes along with the transit system, and so there have been some discussions about potentially looking at reusing potential reuses for that site, potentially redeveloping, but nothing formal has happened with that. There's been no formal action on any of those discussions. It's mainly been informal discussions happening about potentially reusing that site because the site isn't the busy transit center that it once was. But it currently is the Ed Pastor Transit Center and functions that way today. But it's not quite the same as it once was. And I would just look to Jesus if you would add anything that I might have not included in my comments.
I think, Mayor, members of council, I think Mario summarized it correctly. It is a transit center today and operates as it has for, I believe, over 20 years as a transit center. But Mario's correct. Years ago, we had more routes end there, so we had a little bit more activity. However, under T2050, as previously discussed, we have expanded service and the footprint of, the geography of that we cover. So we don't have as many routes terminating there, but we do have transit service adjacent to it. We have 2 local routes, a rapid route, and of course, a central light rail platform being constructed literally across the street. So it's still active, just not at the level it was 20 years ago when it was first built.
Sorry. But given that light rail is coming to South Phoenix, isn't there a potential to kind of reimagine that, maybe add a bike hub, do some things to really complement what's already there?
Mayor, members of the council, Vice Mayor Stark, yes. We, as Mario mentioned earlier, we've had conversations about potential options for reimagining that site, but nothing's been solidified. No RFP has been issued to date.
Well, I, as one, would love to explore that, and I don't think that would take away from the legacy of Congressman Pastor if we reimagine it and make it only better. I am aware that we have a transit center named after him, and so I think it's now time to honor Greg Stanton. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilwoman O'Brien.
Thank you. So I just want to go over to make sure I understood the answers to Vice Mayor's question. So there are no definitive plans to shutter or take down the current Ed Pastor Transit Center.
That's correct.
Okay, so whatever plans for the future have not been decided, and so we absolutely could keep that asset and improve it and make it better than it is today. Is that correct?
That's correct. Any discussions have just been informal discussions, but nothing official, and it's nothing that's been through the council.
Okay. Additionally, a couple of the speakers today brought up, and I think including my colleague, Councilwoman Pastor, brought up that these discussions about naming Central Station after Congressman Pastor have been going on for years. And so I'm going to say that this is the first time, and while I realize I'm going to say one of the newer, not the newest, but one of the newer council members, I've never heard about the Central Station being named after former Congressman Pastor. So that is news to me, but I appreciate you answering my questions.
We are spending $50 million or so as a region to enhance ticketing. We are pushing hard for people to go to ticketing on their mobile phones. Every transit center has less activity, is that right? And will continue at an elevated level?
Mayor, members of the council, yes, the expectation is that with the newer options that we are doing under the new regional fare collection system that City of Phoenix has been undertaking jointly with Valley Metro, that there would be basically less cash collection at transit centers. And so members of the riding public would instead use reloadable fare cards and an app on their phone. Yeah.
Thank you. Councilwoman Pastor.
Yes. I would like to know what you have told the community regarding, because there's community members regarding the current plan for South Central. And it was a plan that we voted on, and community showed up and said, we do not want this to be changed. The second piece is I would like Chris Mackey to come up to the table to discuss the fact of what we voted on to send that property to the FTA to be able to ask if we could repurpose that property, and the intent and the writing that went into it of what's really going to happen. So first of all, what did you promise South Phoenix constituents that Central and Van Buren was supposed to be transferred, the name of Ed Pastor on Central and Broadway was supposed to be transferred to Central and Van Buren? I did not ask for it. I was told by staff and community that that was going to happen. And those conversations were with the South Central Collaborative, along with the artists that toured that space. So I want to get real and frank and quit dancing around the questions. Thank you.
Mayor and Councilwoman Pastor, there have been informal discussions with you and others about potentially moving the name of the Ed Pastor Transit Center from where it is today to Central Station. And I do acknowledge that that's something that we have talked about in the past. But obviously, that's a council decision. There's a process for that. It needs to go through the Heritage Commission and ultimately is decided upon by the council. So any discussions about that have been purely informal discussions, and with acknowledgement that that is a city council decision. That's not something that any staff member can promise would happen. It's only the city council that can decide that.
I understand that the city council can decide that. However, there is a process to go through with the heritage piece. So I'm just putting that down. If anybody read the process and the heritage process, we're doing this a little backwards. But I asked Chris Mackey to come to the table because I know under Councilwoman Ansari and others, and that were part of meeting with the South Central Collective for several years, 3 years at least, discussing what was going to happen to that space. And we voted on in subcommittee and council for that site to be disposal. And that site was included in the 24-25 list sent to the FTA. The intent of that is to write, and there's 2 RFPs that have been discussed. One was to activate the building where the Ed Pastor name is centered right now, to activate that building. It came from community. Staff met with community and told them we're going to write an RFP so that we can activate this space. Simultaneously, we will be writing an RFP to re-look at what this space is going to look like. That could be affordable housing, mixed housing. The building will be saved, but it will be blended with the project. I don't know if I'm correct, I'm wrong, or I'm smoking dope.
Mayor, Councilwoman Pastor, if I could take just a moment to kind of walk through the process that we've done on the site so far. You're absolutely correct. Former Councilmember Ansari did bring groups together on a number of occasions to talk about and reimagine the site. It was her guidance in the year before she left that we work with Transit. We'd been out to tour the site together to consider moving forward with a request for proposal on the site. In our 24-25 list of properties that economic development would propose to get ready to take out for request for proposal, we did bring it to the subcommittee. It was on our list. That is just the broad stroke of starting the process. That's making sure that council doesn't have any issues with some of the properties that we're considering taking out. It could be taken out in 24, it could be taken out in 25, 26. That just starts the process. Mr. Sapien and I then, to even go any farther, would have to write a scope of work that the council would authorize, and we'd have to visit with the FTA, since they're our financial partners, jump in if I say this wrong, that we would have to take it to the FTA to gain their concurrence that they would allow for either additional development or redevelopment to happen on the site. We then come before subcommittee with staff scope of work for a recommendation for an RFP. We then come to the formal council for that recommendation. We would then open an RFP and see what type of responses we have. At this time, we don't have council's formal authorization, nor have we requested it to go out for an RFP. It's been community meetings with former Councilman Ansari, and on the subcommittee, we did take forward, each year we take forward a full list of items that we may propose to take out for RFP in the coming year. Mr. Sapien, did I say that correctly? Okay.
Yes, you did. And Mayor, members of the council, Chris is correct. We do have a federal interest in the Ed Pastor Transit Center property. We did receive federal funds a little over 20 years ago for the land acquisition and for the construction of the site. So anything we did relative to council's approval, such as taking out an RFP for redeveloping the site, number one, we can put all our wishes and desires in there as to, you know, retention of the site, the building that's there, as Councilwoman Pastor correctly called out. But secondly, we would have to, just like we did with Central Station, get FTA approval and walk them through what, if anything, we're going to do to the site. And we wouldn't, you know, there wouldn't be shovels in the ground basically until we got FTA approval. But that would be one of the components of issuing an RFP, is getting FTA approval.
Thank you. And we have a great record of using this process to actually enhance sites. So for example, we have also gone to the FTA with an RFP for Central Station, and it has created more amenities. So it's, I think, made it even more desirable. Councilwoman Hodge Washington.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to clarify, make sure, it's a lot of moving parts at the moment. I just want to make sure I understand the current status of everything at this juncture. At this juncture, has an RFP been issued regarding the current property that houses the Ed Pastor Transit Center?
Mayor, Councilwoman Hodge Washington, no. We've not come to seek council's authorization, formal authorization on a specific RFP. We have concurrence from the subcommittee that it's on a future list.
Okay, that's what I wanted to clarify, because I heard what seemed to be conflicting information. I just want to make sure I confirm that. Like Councilwoman O'Brien, this is, in recent days, the first time I've heard that this was a consideration to name it after Ed Pastor, the Central Station. So I'm just trying to also identify some information on the extent of the community meetings that may have been conducted to get this feedback. Is there anything you can add for that for me? You said they were conducted with Councilwoman Ansari's office. I'm just trying to get some more information as to maybe time. How did we determine the stakeholders, just who had input into this conversation, and what was at the end of that meeting, what was the conclusion?
Mayor and Councilwoman Hodge Washington, yeah, there were some community meetings with that were facilitated by Councilwoman Ansari's office, along with Councilwoman Pastor, with members of the community in South Central, specifically to talk about potential uses of the Ed Pastor Transit Center site at Central and Broadway. And so really the stakeholders were joint effort of the two council offices, bringing those two groups together to talk about, again, the potential reuses of that site and what could be done there. And so that I think that's the extent. Is there anything else that you would add, Chris Mackey?
Mayor, Councilman Hodge Washington, no. Those are the meetings we met on site, walked through the building with the community to gain some insight into what they envision for the potential adaptive reuse of the building.
And if I just want to make sure I understand this very clearly, if and until the council says otherwise, the Ed Pastor Transit Center would remain in its current operational state?
And members of the council, that is correct.
So, thank you so much, Mayor.
Thank you. So we will, I think, first have a roll call on Councilwoman Pastor's motion Guardado's motion. And then if that does not succeed, we would then go to the original motion. Is that right, Denise?
Yes, Mayor.
All right, roll call.
Galindo Elvira. Guardado.
Mayor, can I explain my vote?
Please do.
Thank you. I think that given the conversation that we've had here today, commitments that have been made to the community, I think that, you know, we have two different congressmen who have done a lot for this community when it comes to transportation. I'm hopeful that this motion will move forward so that we can have a more robust conversation at the commission, and that we can figure out who the center will be named after, and hopefully we will give that opportunity to the community so that they can come together and also be able to weigh in on the decision that we will at the end will be making. I will be voting yes.
Hodge Washington.
I too would like to explain my vote, Mayor.
Please do.
Thank you. I do believe that both individuals are duly deserving of the honor. I believe that Greg Stanton has made an impeccable mark in our community when it comes to transportation. We often hear the story of how he relied personally on public transportation. This is not to minimize the legacy of Mr. Ed Pastor as well. I do believe that he has made great strides, and it's a key figure in a Latino culture here in Arizona that we want to definitely respect and honor. I'm going to vote no on the substitute motion just because it's abundantly clear from what I've heard that the Ed Pastor Transit Center is going to remain until council says otherwise, and I don't believe that council is at the position where they're going to say no to, or they're going to modify the Ed Pastor Transit Center.
O'Brien.
May I explain my vote, Mayor?
Please do.
I also will be voting no on the substitute motion. I think that it is time to honor Congressman Stanton for his contributions as well, and I believe that we should look at if it's either leaving, reimagining, making the current transit center a better place. There is that center, and so I'd like to work with council on ensuring that that becomes continues and becomes a great legacy for Ed Pastor. Thank you.
Pastor.
I would like to explain my vote.
Please do.
I believe the council doesn't have the full information in front of you and are making a decision that the community asked for. And once again, the community is shut out of some of the decision-making. Conversations were had, conversations were told and said, artists were there, the South Central Collective was there, and that discussion has been happening. But if we want to reimagine this center, we can, but what I'm telling you in the 2050, in the transit piece, it is very clear of the discussions, and I will get the dialogue and minutes so that every one of you understand what has been happening for the last 6 years. I will be voting yes.
Robinson. No. Waring.
I'd like to explain my vote.
Please do.
You know, as I said earlier, I was presented with the opportunity to sign the letter, and I thought that was an appropriate and worthy honor for someone, even if I disagree with him sometimes, a worthy honor for somebody who has worked very hard and given a large chunk of his life to this city. I thought that was appropriate, and I said an immediate yes, and I was proud to do it. But that is no reflection on what I think of the Pastors. Mrs. Pastor, I think you know that I enjoyed talking to your husband more than maybe, no offense guys, any other elected officials I've dealt with. I enjoyed him thoroughly as a person, as someone to work with. Enjoyed him very much. You know, I guess I would just say this is certainly not a reflection of what I think about him, and if you have some other suggestions of what would be a worthy honor for him, I can only speak for myself. I certainly would entertain them. So I made this commitment. I'm not going to back off that, but I would certainly welcome any opportunity to honor Ed Pastor's service, and would be interested, as Laura said, what the community would think would be appropriate. Thank you, and I'm voting yes, or no, excuse me.
Stark?
If I can explain my vote. We have a Ed Pastor Transit Center, and it sounds like there is a vision to make it bigger and even better. And so I will vote no, because I think we also need to honor Greg Stanton.
Gallego?
No.
Fails 2-6. We are now back on the original motion.
Wonderful, thank you. And I think important to clarify, Greg Stanton did not ask for this station to be named for him, so I think it was a surprise to him. Roll call on the original motion.
Galindo Elvira? Guardado? Oh,
Can we?
yep. Galindo Elvira.
Okay.
Mayor, may I explain my vote?
Please do.
I'm sorry, I have a severe cold and not feeling well, so I'll be as precise and concise as possible. Mayor, I have and maintain the highest respect for the late Congressman Ed Pastor and his long legacy of service to community. His strong support for the City of Phoenix transit system is without dispute. Ed cared for Arizona. He was a product of the Copper Corridor. For the sake of clarity, at no time was there a conversation or decision made to demolish, repurpose the site with affordable housing, or to close the historic site of the Ed Pastor Transition Station on Broadway and Central, located in District 7. This information is both unfounded and unfortunate. I am committed and dedicated to ensuring that this center serves as a heart and is a continued location for transit, and hopefully soon a go-to center for resources to assist the community and the neighborhoods located around it. But because my employer was contacted regarding this issue, it now becomes necessary to remove any potential for irregularity, and for that reason, I abstain from this vote.
Guardado?
Mayor, can I explain my vote?
Please do.
Thank you. As much as I admire the work that Congressman Stanton has done, I think there's a lot of great work still ahead of us. I thank him for his leadership and for all of the hard work that he's been doing. But I still do believe that we bypassed what the community really wanted to happen in this station. So I will be voting no.
Hodge Washington?
Yes.
O'Brien?
Yes.
Pastor?
No.
Robinson?
Yes.
Waring? Stark?
Yes.
Gallego?
Yes.
Passes 7-2.
So this will now go to the commission, and then it would come back to the full council. This is a process we've used, including with the McCain terminal naming. So multiple hearings for people who want to be heard. We next go to item 60, which is an IGA with Maricopa County Community College District. Do we have a motion?
I move to approve.
Second, and noting Councilwoman Pastor has an employment relationship with the Maricopa County Community College District, and because of that financial interest, she is not participating in this item, so we'll declare a conflict there. Any comments? Roll call.
Galindo Elvira?
Yes.
Guardado?
Yes.
Hodge Washington?
Yes.
O'Brien? Robinson?
Yes.
Waring? Stark?
Yes.
Gallego?
Yes.
Passes 7-0.
Item 61, do we have a motion?
I move to approve.
We have a motion and a second. Councilwoman Pastor had asked to make comments on this. Councilwoman Pastor does not need to make comments. Any other comments? Roll call.
Galindo Elvira?
Yes.
Guardado?
Yes.
Hodge Washington?
Yes.
O'Brien? Pastor? Robinson?
Yes.
Waring? Waring? Stark?
Yes.
Gallego?
Yes.
Passes 8-0.
Item 62 is a request for reconsideration. Councilwoman Hodge Washington.
Thank you, Mayor, thank you, Mayor. Exactly 2 weeks ago, we voted on a last-minute amendment that, well, first off, let me move to adopt item 63, move to reconsider as outlined in my letter dated May 8, 2024.
Second.
Motion and a second. We'll recognize the Councilwoman Hodge Washington for additional comments.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, Mayor. Exactly 2 weeks ago, we voted on a last-minute amendment that would forever bar individuals who had filed certain claims against the Phoenix Police Department from serving on the Citizens Review Board. We engaged in a robust discussion on the dais. We heard the need to ensure that all civilian votes were considered, including those who had filed claims against the police department. And we also considered whether those with out-of-state law enforcement experience should be eligible. It was reiterated during those conversations that the Civilian Review Board should be a trusted place for concerns without any appearance of bias and propriety, and the need to ensure that the information was equally shared amongst the board members. Although a vote proceeded, I continue to believe that the decision warranted further consideration, and I made no secret about my intent to bring this issue back to you for reconsideration. Before doing so, I reviewed the ordinance language from 18 other jurisdictions that we as a council were provided with as examples. I looked to see what the other jurisdictions were doing and pulled excerpts. Based on the concerns I heard from you, council members, on May 1st, 2024, I urge you to reconsider and allow a vote on the proposed changes and additions to section 20-14A1 as outlined in my 8/2024 letter. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Galindo Elvira.
Yes.
Guardado.
Yes.
Hodge Washington.
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Pastor. Robinson.
Mayor, may I explain my vote?
Please do.
Thank you. I think compromise is important in all these situations, and I still have a difficult time with not allowing someone with law enforcement experience as a voting member on the board who could provide that background, that experience. Yet we will allow somebody who may, and granted it could be 10 years out, but I always worry about how long someone could hold on to something. And I get it. I want to compromise. I want to look for a way to move this whole thing forward and do the right things. But I think fair is fair. And I think if we're going to not consider someone with a law enforcement background, not necessarily from the Phoenix Police Department or anything like that, if we're going to leave that out, I'm going to have to vote no on this one. Thank you, Mayor.
Waring. Stark.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 7-2.
So the motion to reconsider has passed, which means we now go to item 63. Would the clerk read the title?
Item 63 is for Ordinance G7258, an ordinance relating to the Office of Accountability and Transparency, amending Chapter 20, Article 1, Section 20-1 of the Phoenix City Code, Article 2, Sections 20-5 through 20-10 and 20-13, and repealing and deleting Sections 20-11 in its entirety, adding Article 3, Sections 20-14 through 20-17, and amending Article 4, Sections 20-26.
Nicely done. Do you want to introduce the item?
I can go ahead and make the motion.
Wonderful. Go ahead, Councilwoman.
I move to adopt item 63 with the amendments as noted in my May 8, 2024 memo.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments before we go to public comments? Ben Laughlin. All right, we have no Ben Laughlin, so we will go, I think, to Councilwoman Hodge Washington.
Thank you, Mayor. As I stated when I asked for reconsideration, I believe that this draft language addresses the issues that were raised by this council in the dais, and I think it's a reasonable balance of, and compromise for this council, and it ensures that that all voices, we are a civilian review board, is inclusive and not strives to be exclusive. So with that, I ask my colleagues to support this motion.
Thank you. Roll call.
Galindo Elvira.
Yes.
Guardado.
Yes.
Hodge Washington.
Yes.
O'Brien. O'Brien. Pastor. Robinson?
Yes.
Waring? Stark?
Yes.
Gallego?
Yes.
Passes 6-1.
Thank you. We next go on to item 9D, which is an amendment to Phoenix City Code Chapter 31. Will the clerk read the title?
Item 90 is for ordinance G7261, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to amend Phoenix City Code Chapter 31 Streets and Sidewalks to allow the city manager or designee the authority to revoke temporary encroachment permits pursuant to Section 80.h.
Vice Mayor.
I move to approve.
Second. Any comments? Roll call.
Galindo Elvira?
Yes.
Guardado?
Yes.
Hodge Washington?
Yes.
O'Brien? Pastor? Robinson?
Yes.
Waring? Stark?
Yes.
Gallego?
Yes.
Passes 7-0.
We next go to the planning and zoning portion of our agenda. Item 101 is in Councilwoman Stark, Vice Mayor Stark's district. We will open the public hearing. Julia Taggart.
I'm fine.
Yes, I'm opposed to this. My community was not told about this. I just found out about this and left a volunteer luncheon to come. I've been on the phone with other people and other block watches like Palo Verde Block Watch who had come to a community meeting to talk with the owner about not wanting a storage facility at this place. They did not know either. I've been texting with other people who were against this, that they can't come here because they have work today, and they didn't know either. A storage unit is not good in that area. I've talked with business owners multiple times. I know this has been brought up at city council meetings, planning and commission. There are so many businesses in that area being affected by homeless problems. I mean, I could go on and on for it. There is a street issue too, where there is a community of single mothers that live in housing development there. There's kids that play in the street. We had talks with the owner multiple times. I asked about, street safety. What could that be done? There was nothing that he said could be done on that. The owner of the property said he wanted to work with the community. This is not working with the community when we get blindsided, and I have people saying, I didn't know that this was coming up. I would have loved to do a public comment because it affects them. The storage unit place that was put in next to them, they told me that it affected their community very badly, and they have an increase in crime, and they didn't want this to happen again. And I am speaking about it because I live in that area. I know there's a storage company right across the way that's been there for over 40 years. There's one down the street. There's another one down the street. We don't need another one. There could be such a better use for that land, and giving it C-free status is a blank check. The last time I checked, there was no company that wanted to buy it. There was no blueprints. There was no design. And it's very hard for my community to clean up all the messes we've already done. Hatcher Road is a perfect example. We were able to clean that up, but that's taken 5 years. If we get this storage unit, I don't know how long it would be for us to clean up this area too, because it's going to be an issue. And I would just put a pause on this so my community can come and put their public comments to you, because they didn't know. And I know I'm the only one so far registered, and I would love for them to be able to say what they want to say to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Marty Hall.
Good afternoon. My name is Marty Hall. I represent the owner of the property. Thank you for this opportunity. The very first thing I want to bring to your attention is this property is located at a dead-end street. It is there's only one-way singular access to this property. It is currently zoned R110. The nearest sewer system that's even available to this site, considering that is zone R110, is in excess of 500 feet. So the economics of extending a sewer for a singular parcel for R110 just doesn't make a whole lot of sense, one. Number two is we've proceeded from the very beginning in following all the protocol that the city has required of us regarding notification to all the neighbors, as well as our adjacent neighbors. We've met with all the adjacent neighbors, making sure that we're addressing any concerns they have. To date, I don't believe there's any of the adjacent neighbors that have any issues with what we're trying to accomplish. We've met with the village hearing. We appeared before village hearing. They voted in favor of this project. The planning staff has recommended approval for this project. in response to the young lady that just spoke here, they asked us to appear before their, which I believe they refer to as the Sunnyside Historical Organization. We met with them. There was 6 or 7 people that had signed in, asking questions. We met with them for well over an hour, reviewing what we were proposing, answering their questions. And they had asked at that time, let's just continue this, because no one came up with a solution that was any better than what we'd already had presented. We have not heard from them ever since then. So it is my opinion, oops. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Any questions for any of our folks? I believe that's everyone, so we will close the public hearing, and I will turn to the Vice Mayor.
Thank you. Mayor, I had an opportunity to talk to some of the village committee members. The majority were in support. I also had an opportunity to talk to some of the adjoining property owners. Originally, there was some issues with access, and they've been resolved. So I'd like to make a motion to approve, per the staff's recommendation, adopt the related ordinance.
Second.
Second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Any comments? Roll call.
Galindo Olvera,
Yes.
Guardado,
Yes.
Hodge Washington,
Yes.
O'Brien,
Yes.
Pastor, Robinson,
Yes.
Waring, Stark,
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 8-0.
Items 102 and 103 are related items. We will have one public hearing, but 2 votes. We'll begin with a staff report.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of the City Council. With me today is Deputy Director Tricia Gomes and Planner 3, Sarah Salcombe. They'll give the presentation for item 102 and the companion 103.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Items number 102 and 103 are located apologize. Items number 102 and 103 are located approximately 863 feet south of the southwest corner of 51st Avenue and Carver Road. Item 102 is GPA LV-3-22-8. It is a general plan amendment to allow commercial, commerce park, various residential designations, and resort. Item 103 is Z-53-22-8. It is a request to rezone to plan unit development to allow single-family and multifamily residential, commercial uses, and some commerce park. There is single-family residential to the north and east with a mix of traditional and large lots. The large lots are within Maricopa County and the city. To the west is the Loop 202 Freeway and the Gila River Indian Reservation. Southeast of the subject site is the South Mountain Park and Preserve. The Gila Foothills PUD includes 12 development units and 3 distinct character areas. The LaVine Village Planning Committee recommended denials, file, and approve with modifications to add residential 1 to 2, 3.5 to 5, and 5 to 10 designations by an 8-0 vote for the general plan amendment, and recommended approval of the planning of the PUD zoning request per a staff memo with modifications and additional stipulations by a vote to 8-0. The Planning Commission recommended approval of the general plan amendment per the LaVine Village Planning Committee recommendation by a vote of 8-0, and recommended approval of the PUD zoning request per the staff memo dated April 4th, 2024, with a modification and deleted stipulation by a vote of 6-2. This depicts the land use map designation changes recommended by the Village Planning Committee and the Planning Commission. The applicant has continued to work with the community and Councilwoman Hodge Washington's office to address concerns and has agreed to several revisions to the stipulations as outlined in the memo dated May 13th, 2024. A brief overview of the changes include locating residential office uses away from existing residential towards the street and southern perimeter of DU 1 and 8. Reserves DU 2 for a hospital use for the first 5 years. Removes auto dealerships and retail sales and rental from DU 2. Prohibits multifamily development within the designated L-shaped area in DU 8. Reserves 50 acres for a resort use in DU 9A, 9B, 10 for the first 5 years. Prohibits tobacco-oriented and marijuana-related businesses. Adds landscaping and shade or cool paving requirements for auto dealerships. Adds bonus provisions to earn additional units from the base requirement, and requires biannual land development updates for 3 years, then transitions to annual updates. And with that, staff recommends approval of GPA-LV-3-22 per the Planning Commission's recommendation and adoption of the related resolution, and recommends approval of Z-53-22 per the May 13, 2024 memo from the Planning and Development Director and adopt the related ordinance. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. Any questions? So we will have 2 presentations now, 10 minutes aside. Each side is welcome to use their 10 minutes as they see fit. So if you would like to pass to multiple speakers, you may do so. Anyone who doesn't speak during that time period will have 2 minutes to speak and address the council. The applicant can reserve to 2 minutes, up to 2 minutes for rebuttal if wishing to do so. We'll begin with Wendy Riddell for the applicant.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. I'm hoping staff can help me out and pull the presentation up and either be my Vanna White or give me the clicker. Thank you. Thank you. Wendy Riddell with the law firm Barry Riddell, 6750 East Camelback. It's my pleasure to finally be here on behalf of the Lyons family. I may need help advancing it. There we go. So this is a case that we have been hard at work on. Our vision here is to create a mix of an EV-focused auto campus, which will generate over $52 million in annual sales tax revenue for the city of Phoenix. It will include a level 1 trauma hospital where there's a huge need in this community. It will also create a reservation of land for a 50-acre resort site that we're working very closely with Chris Mackey on. It will provide the first trailhead into South Mountain Park in LaVine, working with the city of Phoenix to provide a fire station through a development agreement. And it creates a mixed-use retail development, includes some billboards, create branding opportunities for LaVine, and some much-needed housing. I will tell you that this is a downzoning from the original Tierra Montana PCD. It's actually a reduction of 929 units from those original entitlements. All of this, of course, necessitated by the construction of the Ed Pastor Freeway that has come through. When we began this case, there was significant opposition. There were really even over 100 people back in October of 2022. And we have been hard at work. Several village hearings, enough to ultimately earn a unanimous recommendation of approval from the LaVine Village Planning Committee. Those are not words I get to utter very often, and certainly not ones I get to utter on a 300-acre PUD. So how did we earn unanimous village support? We agreed to some 45 modified stipulations that we very carefully negotiated with village leadership and with the LaVine community. From a high level, they included an improved traffic solution, ultimately a reduction in height, additional step backs and setbacks from existing residential. We added single family, R118 and DU8. We reduced the height of the hospital tower. We agreed to a setback and a buffer. We added sustainability standards. We added additional architectural standards. We agreed to come back through PHO on much of it. And we agreed to work with the neighbors on 47th Avenue in ultimately privatizing their road. Probably the biggest component of our success, creating that success at the village, was again creating R118 or agreeing to R118 and DU8, creating what we called a synergistic plan with the LaVine community, including one-story homes adjacent to Estrella and 47th Avenue with a 50-foot landscape setback and no vehicular access onto Estrella or 47th Avenue, again, ultimately helping to privatize 47th Avenue. There was one sticking point, however, as we got through Village and through Planning Commission, and it related to the density. At the LaVine Village, we had a recommendation of what I'll call that base density of 1,200 units, and we were afforded a 500-unit bonus with a level 1 trauma hospital. The Planning Commission was willing to allow us to go back to that 2,200 units with a 1,700 base and a 500-unit bonus. But there continued to be concern as we headed to council, and so we have been very hard at work with the Councilwoman Hodge Washington, the council office, with the LaVine leadership, and with the LaVine community. And ultimately, we have reached a compromise. That compromise is essentially the developer, it gets their deal, they get the 2,200 units, but the community gets their terms. And the type of density is the very density that the community has been asking for from the beginning. And we think this is a very carefully negotiated and a very fair compromise. So essentially the way it works is we have the 1,200 units by right, we have a level 1 trauma, which would give us the ability to bring 500 more units in. If we have restaurants and retail that are greater than 15 acres, then we earn 250 more units. If we provide senior housing, defined as 55 plus deed restricted, then we can earn an additional 150 units. And if we provide platted townhomes using the SFI, we get an additional 100 units. So with that, we are very grateful for the hard work that everyone was willing to put into this case with us. We have what we think is a very successful project for the city of Phoenix. It will have a level 1 trauma hospital, EV auto campuses, which is a huge tax revenue generator, trailhead resort, and more much needed housing. You can see through this that we have done a significant amount of outreach and hard work with the community, and we're very pleased to have this compromise today before the council, as evidenced by the 30-page memo and additional 14 stipulations that we've agreed to before coming here. So with that, Madam Mayor, members of the council, we would respectfully request your approval. I'm happy to reserve the remainder of my time for rebuttal as needed, and of course, happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you. And for your rebuttal, would you like to go after all other speakers?
Yes, please.
All right. John is next. And again, you have 10 minutes. If you want to have multiple speakers, that's fine. If you want to use the whole 10 minutes, that also works.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's John Bisdell, by the way. I realize that name's a little difficult to pronounce, but I don't think I'll need my 10 minutes in its entirety, so that's okay. Thank you for having me here today. I was the appellant that filed the appeal May 1st, and obviously the community had some concerns regarding the density, because from day one, this really has been about density. And I wanted to take the opportunity to thank Keisha personally. I first met with her back in January to share the community's concerns. Her commentary to me was almost like, well, who are you? Does anybody even agree with what you have to say? And of course, my position at that time was, I'm a voice of one today, but I'll have the whole community behind me when I come to the city council. And I think when you saw the pictures of the LaVine Village, when we got the community mobilized, we packed that place, and we just didn't pack it, it had standing room only. But I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for Keisha's efforts, and so I want to take the opportunity to thank her and the whole team that's worked. Okay, here we go. So the community put together a whole bunch of things that we wanted to see if we could get incorporated into the Gila Foothills development. And we're pleased to say that Keisha and the developers listened to the bulk of what we had to say. There's still some things that we would have liked to have seen incorporated, but at the end of the day, we really have to stand back and say, what did this development look like when it started, and what does it look like today? And from the community's perspective, some of the things that we were after, we were able to get the LaVine Village to embrace with us. You know, some of those significant items at the February 12th meeting was they did not endorse the Gila Foothills development as it was originally drafted. They agreed with a decrease in density size, recommendation of single-family residences along Estrella and 47th Avenue. We secured a major win for the residents there in terms of having them agree to limiting the building height at the resort at 20 feet for the first 100 feet versus the proposed 40, so that was cut in half. We had them address some landscaping options because the concern was, what does landscaping do for the view? And I actually created the 1,200 units. And I was very, very pleased to see that the council adopted that in terms of their baseline. As Wendy mentioned, there was a huge synergistic win for Development Unit 8. When we talk about large lots across the street, farms and acreage, it just made zero sense to have the type of density that was proposed across the street. And again, I could talk until I'm blue in the face, but without Keisha's help, and I wanted to personally thank the Lyons family and the development team as well, because obviously if you folks didn't embrace what the community was trying to push back, again, I wouldn't be here today. I'm still looking to Reed, though, to work something for my Bermuda Triangle, and he knows what I'm talking about for Tierra, Montana, so I'll leave it at that. The 47th Avenue folks also will have the ability to have their road completely privatized, so we think that's a great thing as well. Again, very generous offer by the development team to foot the bill on that. And Keisha was very innovative in terms of how she crafted the elements that would allow this plan to go forward from 1,700 to 2,200 units. Because I can tell you, for those that answered your email, you saw the presentation I sent you from 2 weeks ago that looked entirely different than what I'm presenting here today. And Keisha was able to discuss a couple more items, the 55 plus, which was a big item for the community because LaVine, there's a lot of older residents in LaVine, especially in the acreage areas surrounding this development. And quite frankly, as they age, there's nowhere to go. So to have a 55 plus area in the community, that's just outstanding. And Keisha, we just want to thank you for helping facilitate that activity as well as ownership of the townhomes rather than just rental units. I put together a lot of presentations because I met with a lot of people, and this chart kind of summarizes excerpts from some of those. It all started with the flyer that we sent out again to get the community involved and get their participation here. And I think with the show from the community and a reminder to the village and the development team that what's the character of LaVine? Rural. And we appreciate the fact that you made every effort to try to help us with that. So the bottom line is, with the great progress that Keisha's been able to facilitate over the last couple of weeks, the community folks that I represent are dropping our opposition to this development, and we're going to support it. Now, when I say that, are there going to be people opposed to this? Of course there are. I can't speak for everybody 100%. But in terms of the organized effort that we had to try to make betterment for the community, like I said, Keisha's just done an outstanding job facilitating that. And again, I want to thank the Lyons family and the development team for recognizing that. The last chart I want to leave you with is a call to action. You're not going to get off that scot-free. So one of the concerns the community still has is this development changes the zoning for the resort area. And the resort area, by the way, on this chart is right up against the base of South Mountain there, one of the most pristine areas we have left in LaVine. And it's currently zoned, when this passes, at 40 dwelling units per acre. And in talking with Reed, if the development builds out 2,200 dwelling units, there isn't an opportunity to build more dwelling units in the resort. The resort should just be a resort. The community's concern is, when I talked with Marcia Bushing from the Planning Council regarding the South Mountain, they had an area designated for the resort off of 7th Street. It never happened, And what wound up happening is it just defaulted to the zoning, which was multifamily, and they built multifamily there. The community's concern is, in the event that we don't get a resort buyer or builder in 5 years, what's going to happen? That area is going to be zoned for 40 acres, 40 units per acre density, as opposed to the current 20, which is what the RH resort is for section 629. And what I'd like the council to do now, and I'm not sure how the process is, if somebody needs to make a motion or how it works, but if we don't see what happens in terms of a resort, and that land's just there granted, the developer's going to have to come back and say, hey, we couldn't get a resort. It's already zoned for 40 per acre. We're capped at 1,700, so why don't we just go ahead and build 40 per acre? That's not compatible at all with the area. So what we're asking for today is, however you need to do it, we'd like to see the council take a motion, and if we can't get a resort buyer, put it back to the 20 units per acre, because the developer's going to have to come back anyway to present whatever they're going to do in the event they can't find a resort buyer or developer. But at least that protects the community to a degree, because at the end of the day, 5, 6 years from now, I might not be here, you folks might not be here, and everyone's going to forget this discussion, kind of like the discussion on the train terminal. We just can't have that. So I'd like to have that documented today, because that discussion will be opened up later. And with that, I'll give you a minute and 24 seconds back. Thank you.
Thank you. And John, do you want John to stay? No. Okay. No, I'm sorry. I thought she has a question, but not Vice Mayor.
So I am familiar with reversions, and it is a process. You can't simply revert without going back to an actual public hearing. And I know I've been out of planning for a few years, but is that the way the law still works?
Mayor, Vice Mayor Stark, members of the council. You are correct. If this was conventional zoning, it just couldn't revert back. In the PUD, obviously, if there were modifications to address that, the council would need to make a modification.
So I guess what I'm saying is we can revisit it, but it doesn't automatically go back to 20. I just wanted to, you shaking your head like you understand that, so, okay. I just wanted to make sure everyone understood that. I know we've used that stipulation in the past, but sometimes I think people don't understand that means we reopen and have another hearing, so thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. We will next go to additional comments. We'll begin with virtual public comments with Dan Penton, followed by Joanne Jensen.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the council. My name is Dan Penton. I'm a resident of LaVine. I appreciate all of the arguments for and the presentation. Yes, this has been a long, tedious redevelopment proposal going on somewhere north of 2 years now. However, I'm disappointed that in the year that South Mountain is celebrating its 100th anniversary, that we're proposing to put a sprawling 80-acre, 10-dealership auto mall that will do nothing but bring more urban heat island and all kinds of urbanization to the base of South Mountain in one of the most pristine areas of Phoenix that has over 3 million visitors a year. You, the council, our village planning committees, we're supposed to be, the community, we're supposed to be stewards of this park, okay? One of the largest municipal parks in the country, in the world even. Yet here we are in an attempt for a money grab, because there is no other purpose for this other than private interests. The city may see tax revenue, but this is wholly a private endeavor. Yet this is going to be something that is lost forever. There's been no environmental impact study like there was done with the freeway. I think at a bare minimum there should have been some mindful or forethought given to the Gila River community. This is their traditional cultural property. So I'm calling on you guys to keep that in mind. There was a park ranger at South Mountain that worked there for over 6 years, and he understood the magic of South Mountain. He spoke of it with reverence, and he emphasized its rarity in the heart of Phoenix. He said it might be the only place where you can find yourself out on a trail and still get a feeling of a sense of wilderness. And I'm just saying that should, you hold on to that. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. Joanne is next, and then we'll go in person to Linda.
Can you hear me?
Again.
Thank you very much. Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, thank you for taking my comments. I am Joanne Jensen, 8303 South 17th Drive, Phoenix, Arizona, 85041. I am a member of the LaVine Village Planning Committee and one of those 8 who was finally able to vote unanimously in favor of the Gila Foothills proposal that you have in front of you. I believe that this proposal will bring the variety of housing, it will bring the variety of commercial and the variety of tax-paying incentives to a community that has long been asking for it. I am very excited about the way that the community, our council member, our other stakeholders, including the developer, have worked together over a very long period of time in order to bring this to you today. So this is a full-throated support and thanks. And I really do believe that it's going to enhance the quality of life in LaVine. I'm very interested in the incentive program, which I think is very creative. And I imagine that it may be one of the first times we've seen it, but it may not be the last. I think it's a great way to address everyone's issues in a very creative way. And I thank you very much. That's all I have for today.
Thank you. Linda is next, followed by Maria.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I appreciate the opportunity to speak today. My name is, all right. I'm the chair of the LaVine Village Planning Committee and have been involved in this for coming on 2 years now. So I've seen it through the process, and I won't take long, but I just want to reiterate what Wendy was saying. I do feel like as we've worked through this process, all stakeholders have been able to express their priorities and have those priorities addressed. And I appreciate Councilwoman Hodge Washington's efforts in that and the community for being involved. And I do think that this is a good proposal that brings in all of the interests brought up over the last long time of working on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Maria is next, followed by Frank.
Hi, good afternoon. When I first found out about this proposed development, quite frankly, I was horrified because this was the last pristine area of LaVine at the base of South Mountain. But through, working with my neighbors, working with the representatives of the Lyons family, Reed and Wendy, we were able to find compromises that the community can live with and made the development better. And ultimately, we came to an impasse at one point, and without the leadership of our councilwoman, I don't think the community and everybody could have come together. So, when I read your website, Councilwoman, it says you build compromise, and you really do, and get people to come together. So I wanted to thank you for all of your efforts, and LaVine is very lucky to have you as their council person. And I want to thank the Lyons family and Reed and Wendy and everybody for all their efforts. I think people have spent thousands and thousands of hours on this. So we do support the development as currently proposed. So thank you.
Thank you. Frank is next, followed by Stephanie.
Thank you.
What hasn't been addressed here is the traffic coming off of this field, hayfield, across from Estrella on one side, 51st Avenue on the other side. Now, they propose to put apartments in there, which is 1,700, but that equals out to about 3,500 people. Well, that equals out to about 3,000 cars. You have one road getting onto the freeway. You have north and south, you have 51st Avenue, one road. Now, you're taking 3,000 cars out there every morning, every night, all during the day, because there's no services in that area. And even if they put in small services, there's no big services there, like big shopping center type situations. Now, I keep hearing on the TV this morning, they told me not to turn my lawnmower on today. They're talking about putting 3,000 cars sitting there idling, trying to get onto that freeway every day, all day long, from now on, from here till eternity. So there's a simple way around this. You just reach in there and take those 3,000 cars out, pick them out of the equation. Take those 3,500 people out, take them out of the equation. You take those apartments out, take them out of the equation. Go back to 2017 and get those rules, then make that whole section on the east side of 51st Avenue. You make that into houses like it was originally designed. That brings you down to 200 or 300 cars. Well, that's a heck of a lot different than these 3,000 sitting there idling, because you're going to have to idle to get onto the freeway. So this is my problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Stephanie is next, and then Wendy.
I'm Stephanie Hurd. I live at 10207 South 47th Avenue in LaVine. I am also the vice chair of the Village Planning Committee. I am in favor. This is a 290-acre PUD. It's huge. It's the last chunk of land that we have an opportunity to have a lot of input on. I'm really here to thank everybody that was involved. Led by Linda, we brought everyone together, everyone involved together. I want to thank the community for not just coming out and giving input, but for learning and understanding the process, bringing other people out. I want to thank our planner, Nayeli. She got hit hard with a lot of stuff, and we really appreciate her. We're very glad that she didn't quit. I want to thank the village committee for all the extra time they had to put into it. I want to thank the planning department. They helped a ton with language. Some of the comments from earlier, we worked hard to get this language as solid as we can because we can't trust developers all the time. I want to thank economic development. Chris gets calls, texts, meetings at random, and thank you for all the future texts, calls, and meetings. I also want to thank Wendy Rydell. You may know it can be difficult to appreciate a zoning lawyer, but Wendy, actually, I like and respect you a lot, and you made this so much better. So you guys are very smart for hiring her. I think she's fantastic. Keisha, rock star. We love your lawyer hat. You helped with the language. You helped with the compromise at the end. I appreciate you so much. And most importantly, this would not be the PUD it is if it weren't for Linda. She went over this. She spent so much time on it. I can't even tell you how anybody else wouldn't have given it this time. So we owe you a ton for this. Thank you so much, and thank you everybody for everything you've done.
Thank you. And Wendy, if you could address some of the sustainability elements in addition to whatever you else think is important to emphasize.
Yes, of course. Mayor, members of the council, first, if you had told me at the end of this case that I would have the support of Linda, Stephanie, the village, as well as John and Maria standing before you, I would have told you you were crazy. So we are very, very grateful for the leadership all across the board and all the hard work to have gotten here. You asked me specifically to address sustainability, so we agreed to additional sustainability measures, not only in the original PUD, at the village level. They had us add additional required items and sort of up the ante of what we had to include. In the most recent, there was also concern expressed making sure that the auto dealership lots don't become something that contributes to the heat island. So we agreed to additional shading measures there. One way that we can achieve that is through traditional structured shade, landscaping, or by use of cool pavement. So those were additional heightened requirements that were placed on us.
Thank you. I just want to I'll ask you a few questions and then I'll make my comments. I want you to take a second to address one of the concerns we heard from Frank regarding Estrella and 55th.
Yes, of
Traffic
course. So,
concerns.
Madam Mayor, Councilwoman Hodge-Washington. So actually that was probably the biggest concern we had in the very beginning was transportation and how we were dealing with 51st and Estrella, because it frankly is a problem today. And we will thank the Streets Department and planning staff working with us and came up with what I think is quite a creative solution, which is essentially shifting the road south, in effect privatizing, cul-de-sacing Estrella, letting it maintain more of its existing condition, and really making our community more insular so you didn't have the amount of traffic going into the neighborhood. So we worked hard to create a better transportation solution here that was pretty warmly embraced by the rest of the community.
Thank you. The only other question I wanted you to specifically address, and I guess the comment would be, with respect to the location of the auto mall, we tried to move it as close as possible to the freeway, recognizing the beauty that is the South Mountain. Is there anything else you would like to add on that?
For sure. So it was very carefully placed, and in fact, one of the requirements that you had of us, or the last-minute negotiations, was to make sure that everything stayed south of Estrella. And it really is tucked up against the freeway. It's also sort of well buffered by the development before you get to Gila Foothills Parkway, some additional of the townhomes, multifamily. So it really is visible off of the freeway, but it is kept away from the rest of the community. We also have pretty strict design guidelines for the 3 character areas that help ensure it is well done.
Thank you so much. That concludes my questions. I'll go ahead and make some couple remarks. I want to start off first by saying thank you to staff, especially Nayali. She did a phenomenal job of managing the community's concerns on this. I want to also say thank you to the applicant, Wendy Riddell, and her client, the Lyons family, for ensuring that they were receptive to the community feedback. I want to also say thank you to the entirety of the LaVine Village Planning Committee, led by the chair, Linda Abeg. They did a phenomenal job getting this to where it was. Even the Planning Commission, it went a little different than we thought, but it gave us an opportunity to make the PUD better. I want to say thank you also to LCRD. They also chimed in with their comments in order to make this better. John Bizel and Maria Regan as well, and the community as a whole for their active participation. This PUD, as you heard, spans almost 300 acres, and it's one of the last remaining acreage in the LaVine Village. This proposed development garnered a huge deal of media coverage when it first started. And for us to be sitting here today where we have what I would call, not to minimize the opposition that was stated, to have as little opposition as we have right now, I think it's a great example of what happens when we compromise and we work towards a common goal. I think everyone in appearance wanted to figure out how best we could make this something that the entirety of LaVine would benefit from and be proud of. And I am proud to sit here and make the motion for a PUD that will bring us the needed commercial. It would also bring us our needed.
Close the public hearing.
Sorry, my apologies. But same sentiments. I'm proud of the PUD. It includes the commercial that LaVine desperately wants. It includes the residential options. It's a new housing opportunity. We will probably, hopefully they will bring some townhomes to our area, which is another variety of housing that we need in this area. And it will hopefully bring the hospital for our residents as well as the 55 plus. To find my language here. So I would like to move to approve item number 102 per the Planning Commission recommendation and adopt the related resolution.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Congratulations, Councilwoman. The Keisha Hodge-Washington incentive plan may become a good role. It really was a unique way to get things done and achieve multiple different goals. So thank you to everyone who made that possible. For those who don't follow city hearings as much. It is pretty unusual to have so many different carrots to achieve community goals. And I think it may become something that we use more and more often. So congratulations to everyone who put it together. It is truly a carrot-focused way to achieve the property owners' goals, the partners, as well as the community needs. The Lyons family, I think we've been talking for 12 years about a level 1 trauma center, so gosh, that would be great to see that open. You've made a lot of commitments. We are confident you're going to keep them and that we're going to achieve multiple different goals of the community, from housing supplies to celebrating South Mountain Park, and it's cool that this is moving forward in the 100th anniversary year. There's a chance that auto dealership will be the most sustainable in Phoenix, so that will be exciting to see. So congratulations to the councilwoman, to Nayeli, to all of the community leaders. For those of you who don't follow the LaVine Village, it is a big deal to get this kind of vote out of there. This is a bunch of educated, involved folks who have very high standards, and I think 2 months ago, I'm not sure I thought this level of people coming together would be possible. So a real credit to many, many people. Any additional comments? Vice Mayor.
Yes, I just want to say good work to the councilwoman, and I know I've heard from residents, because I have a few friends that live in LaVine. I think you know one of them. He's a neighbor of yours. And I know there's a huge need for the hospital, so I think that's a real win. And I do appreciate all the hard work you did on this. I certainly will be supporting this motion.
Roll call.
Galindo Elvira,
Yes.
Guardado,
Yes.
Hodge Washington,
Yes.
O'Brien,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Waring, Stark,
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 8-0.
Item 103, Councilwoman Hodge Washington.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that we approve per the May 13, 2024 memo from the Planning and Development Director and adopt the related ordinance.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Galindo Elvira,
Yes.
Guardado,
Yes.
Hodge Washington,
Yes.
O'Brien,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Waring, Stark,
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 8-0.
That concludes the agendized portion of the meeting. Congratulations to all involved. We will next go to public comment, and I'll turn to the city attorney to introduce that final section.
Thank you, Mayor. During citizen comment, members of the public may address the City Council for up to 3 minutes on issues of interest or concern to them. The citizen comment session is limited to 30 minutes. The Arizona Open Meeting Law permits the City Council to listen to the comments, but prohibits council members from discussing or acting on the matters presented.
Thank you. We will begin with Elizabeth Venable, followed by Ed Hermes.
Here. 1 second. Sorry. Okay, so, I see my minutes already started, but thank you for waiting for a second. I see. So, obviously, I represent the Fund for Empowerment, and the people that meet outside are called the Houseless Leadership Project. And so that's who you walk through when you walk through our meetings. And part of the reason why we meet outside is to be viewed as constituents of the city of Phoenix, because we reside and shop and often work in the city of Phoenix, right? And as constituents, we are very concerned that voices be represented in the budget. And I know it's a little bit late in the budget process, but we wanted to give our input. Basically, what our priorities are, I emailed you actually the full text of our priorities as amended by all of our members today. So I won't include all the parentheses and all the individual details, but I will go over the list really briefly because I only have 2 more minutes. The first is housing with a wide variety of stipulations, but not just limited to SMI, for a variety of people in the city and affordable, transitional, and long-term housing for people who have experienced homelessness. Second, shelters, especially ones that are compliant with the Americans with Disabilities Act and include support for service animals, have fair rules, charging, trained security, professionally minded staff, possession storage, clean and free from hazards, hygiene supplies, and support to attain real compliance, supportive staff, trained counselors available on call 24/7. Job programs. This is a huge component of what people want. People do not necessarily want to be given things. They want to be sustainable, self-sustainable. They want to be able to work, and a lot of people only need assistance in obtaining such employment or specific programs that eliminate barriers to their employment. Transportation, especially free transportation, or more accessible to people who are low income or are facing homelessness, especially a demand for 24-hour transportation. Even unreasonable as that might seem, it's very effective for people to be employed, et cetera, et cetera. Education and skills trainings for quote-unquote jobs of the future and other vocational programs, medical assistance and outpatient community mental health services, because actually not everybody qualifies for access, 24/7 public restrooms, these are critical, and drinking fountains, food, assistance with emergency support to remain in present housing vouchers, eviction prevention and legal assistance in eviction proceedings, heat response and cooling centers that allow sleep. This is a large problem during the day even, and childcare. Those are our primary feedback from our members. We think that these are appropriate policy responses that can address and prevent homelessness.
Thank you. Ed is next, followed by Eric.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Hi, for the record, Ed Hermes, 212 West Montecito. I'm here today as the president of the Carnation Neighborhood Association, and I'm here today to ask the council to put on the agenda and to vote to end the reverse lanes on 7th Avenue and 7th Street. As a president of a neighborhood association, it's often hard to build consensus. There's one thing that our neighborhoods have consensus about. It is ending the reverse lanes because of the deleterious effects that they have in our communities, especially on our businesses along 7th Avenue and 7th Street, which are made inaccessible oftentimes because of how our residents have to drive out of the way to avoid them, because not only just a confusion, but because they hurt the connectivity between our communities. Our community is resolute against the reverse lanes. Recently, I'm coming here today because recently out of ASU was published a fantastic study I just stumbled upon, and I have copies for everybody on the council. I'll also email them to you as well, where the data shows and the traffic counts show the reverse lanes do not work in 2024. They were put in 1978 and in 1981 in a time pre-State Route 51. Right now, pursuant to AASHTO standards, the reverse lanes do not justify themselves. And the deleterious impact that they have in our communities, especially on our small businesses in the Melrose area and on 7th Street as well, they really negatively impact those businesses because people cannot access them. One of my good friends who wishes he could be here today from Shortleash Hot Dogs, talking to him yesterday, he said, "We would love to sell coffee, we would love to sell donuts in the morning, but we're on the, quote, wrong side of 7th Avenue. People literally and legally cannot get to us and won't get to us, and we have to adjust our business hours because of it." It's hurt our businesses, it's hurt our communities long enough. We're asked that you put this on the agenda. I ask that you do read the study. And the gentleman who headed up the study is here today, Mohammed. I believe he's going to speak with you shortly as well to give you a brief overview of it. But ask that you review it and put it on the agenda to finally end the reverse lanes. So thank you so much, Madam Mayor and Council. And if I could, would you mind passing these out? Thank you so much. Thank you. Should be enough for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Eric is next, followed by Dave.
Hi, my name is Eric. Today I came to speak about something specific. Before I get to that, I want to bring up the whole thing about what to name the central station after. I knew Ed Pastor and I know Greg Stanton. And it's hard because they're both legends in my eyes. But I would point out that my friend Earl Wilcox basically does everything in his neighborhood. And one time I said to him, why is Grant Park, why isn't it called Wilcox Park? And his reply was, you're supposed to wait till after someone dies to name something after them. So it's kind of an unwritten rule. I don't know if y'all are comfortable with breaking that. So anyway, what I came here to talk about today is probably, in my opinion, the most prestigious redevelopment opportunity in Metro Phoenix. I lived in South Phoenix for the last 3 years. I'm moving out soon. But one thing I noticed is when they were talking about the downtown cores and connecting them to other cores, the other day I was walking from my house on 20th Street and Broadway to downtown Phoenix, and I took away by a church that I go to sometimes. And one thing I noticed is if you go up 12th Street, there's acres and acres of the most primest, other than the fact that it's kind of south of the dump, it's some of the most prime real estate in the city of Phoenix. We're talking enough room to build anything you want. South Phoenix is one of the most historically underserved areas of the city. It took Greg Stanton putting light rail down there to get it kind of activated. But I think if we could build a South Central downtown Phoenix in the area I'm talking about, which the city already owns a large part of the land, I noticed, I think that we could then connect sort of downtown going by 24th Street to this sort of this new downtown area, and they would have a downtown in between downtown Phoenix and downtown Tempe. And I was going to suggest we put a hospital there because South Phoenix desperately needs a hospital, but I think the location that the people who left and apparently didn't care that much, I think that location is probably better because most of the shootings in South Phoenix happen on the southwest side anyway. But I really encourage you guys to take a look at the area of land I'm talking about and do your best to buy up as much land around the park that the city of Phoenix already owns, because I think we could bring a lot of stuff to South Phoenix that's not there, such as maybe a big box electronics store, things that people expect, amenities that people expect that South Phoenix is currently lacking. And like I said, there's more than enough land to do whatever you need to do with it. With that said, I would just like to add that reverse lanes are hella dangerous. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. We have Dave next, followed by Julia.
Thank you, Mayor and Council members. My name is Dave Riley. I am a licensed traffic engineer in Arizona. I spent the first part of my career as a consultant, and then the next part I was at ADOT, and I specialized in doing special projects similar to the Phoenix reverse lanes. I have a draft study. This is separate from the ASU study that was referred to earlier, that I would like to share some of that data with you. I've had the privilege of already sharing some of that data with some of the members, council members here. There seems to be good consensus that the way the reverse lanes are today is not good. They can't stay. So the question becomes, do we get rid of them, or do we make a change? Right now, they don't meet national traffic standards. They don't meet Arizona traffic standards. So that change would be adding 438 digital LED signs to these streets, so they would meet standards. This would make them less confusing. But what I found in looking at this data of the reverse lanes, these signs won't address the big problems. So there's five big things that I found that I can't say I was surprised, because you can see it with your own eyes if you drive them. 7th Avenue and 7th Street are the lowest congested streets in the whole area. So that's talking Thomas to Northern, and 16th Street and 19th Avenue, even includes I-17, the 51, Central. You take all those and you look at delay per mile. 7th Avenue and 7th Street are the lowest. So what happens when we take the reverse lanes away? They are still the lowest. Now that came out of Mohammed's ASU study that was referred to earlier. And so they're just not needed. The next thing is losing that center turn lane. It is a big deal. It does make it hard to get around. Number 3, these things are dangerous. Traffic accidents are 2 times higher than a normal road in rush hour. That results in 1 excess crash every day because we're choosing to have the reverse lanes going. Number 4, it forces any left-turning traffic to go through an unsignalized road. That's a neighborhood or a business parking lot. 5th is they are unpopular. Thank you.
Thank you. Julia is next, followed by Mohammed.
I've brought up Mystery Castle to you so much. I know you guys probably think I'm the advocate or the face for the castle. There was a KJazz article that went out about the demolition, and I asked KJazz, I said, what was the response? 90,000 clicks within the first day. And the person who did the article, Robert Pella, got hundreds and hundreds of messages about the castle, the demolition. And then the next article came out that everything inside the castle has been given away. So I was surprised to find Mary Lou's bed for sale on Facebook Marketplace for $800. I just checked, it's still for sale. When I messaged some of the people that were selling Mystery Castle relics, they told me in August they all went into the castle, picked what they wanted, took it out of the castle, took it home, and now are just selling it. And that some things went to the dumpster, they don't know. That broke my heart. That broke a lot of people's heart. If you get the chance to watch, Debbie Abels did a City of Phoenix video where she toured the castle with Mary Lou, and Mary Lou talked about every single piece and what it meant to her, her family's pottery, her father's bed. All of that's gone. You cannot find it back. You can't get it back. You can't. I've talked with professionals in the industry who have said, you're lucky if you can get any of the items back. Where would you even store them? So all of that is gone, which is heartbreaking to me. I've had other historical institutions that are going through the same issue with different properties, being destroyed or up for demolition or things just going away. I think the city of Phoenix really needs to figure out a solution so we don't run into this problem again. I mean, it's a horrible thing to lose. We're not going to get any of those items back. I had someone come in who made custom dolls for Mary Lou and was able to send me photos of the dolls she made, and she told me the story of why Mary Lou wanted those dolls. We're not going to be able to find that unless you go from the 1952 book and try and cross-reference to make sure everything that was in the castle is actually what you're getting. I mean, it's just a terrible piece of history to lose. And with the Albedo House, we were lucky. That got postponed. This one still isn't postponed. It's an issue I keep seeing. I have Tombstone reaching out to me about how they can save their properties. I have Scottsdale, all these other places that are coming into the same issue. I think it would be great to find a solution for this so we don't run into this down the road. We wouldn't want this to happen to Tovra Castle. This wouldn't happen to Tovra Castle. It's happening to Mystery Castle. It will happen to more properties down the line as we grow. So I would just like you guys to consider some sort of solution for historic places and things so we can have, our history saved. As we're going, we need to have our history. We don't have a Phoenix Historical Society. We had a Phoenix History Museum that went away. All we have is the Arizona Historical Society. So we need more Phoenix history so we can learn from our past and grow. Thank you.
Thank you. Mohammed is next, followed by Nicole.
Yeah, my name is Mohammed. I'm a recent graduate student at ASU, majoring in transportation engineering. So a few months back, I got to read the report that was published by the City of Phoenix, which was contracted to a private firm, and I believe it was published in 2021. And upon reading the report, I observed that the report overlooked very basic fundamentals within the traffic operation of reverse lanes. And one of the agendas that the study failed to measure or calculate is the lane utilization rate, which in layman terms is how many drivers are actually driving on the reverse lane. So the study or the report concluded that if we were to remove the reverse lane, that travel time would increase up to 40%, which is simply not true, since if you're not measuring the lane utilization rate or how much traffic is actually driving on the reverse lane, so your assumption is simply not true. So in my study, one of the agendas that I measured is the lane utilization rate, which I found to be very low, which were almost less than 6% in the afternoon, and maybe had acceptable rates from 7 to 8, but for the remainder of the 4 hours were extremely low. The other agenda that I calculated, which as David reiterated, is the collision rates being twice as much on 7th Street and 7th Avenue. I also conducted a collision comparison with 2 other streets that don't have the reverse lane, and the collisions that occurred on 7th Street and 7th Avenue were much more significant than any other nearby streets that don't have the reverse lane. And I just want to conclude that in the traffic engineering world, it's often a trade-off between safety and minimizing delay. And the way I see it, and with the current conditions of the reverse lane, that it's failing at both metrics of safety and minimizing delay. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Nicole is next.
Mayor, Council, thank you. And thank you, Mohammed. I'm realizing my eyes are not that well right now, so I'm going to try to do my best reading this. Phoenix is a city that thrives on connection, and streets serve as those conduits to community connections. Streets, not highways. Yet outdated reverse lanes on 7th Street and 7th Avenue continue to sever those connections. Instead of it being streets, they're hostile highway bypasses that ignored the needs of Central Phoenix residents and communities. Reverse lanes have no culture, no meaning other than to rush hour past an urban core. These lanes are barriers. They force drivers on detours, isolate residents, and stifle local businesses, which are the livelihood and lifeblood of our community. These reverse lanes are not the solution for Phoenix's future. They directly contradict the city's forward-thinking initiatives of Complete Street Policy, Vision Zero, Climate Action Plan, and which they aimed for safer, more sustainable streets. Instead, the reverse lanes create a divided city with a struggling economy in some of our areas of the urban core. But there's a clear path forward. We can reconnect our communities, revitalize, strengthen our businesses, and reimagine our streets by removing these outdated lanes. Envision a Phoenix where vibrant neighborhoods flow seamlessly into one another. Picture bustling streets teeming with thriving businesses accessible to everyone. And this is the future that I want to imagine. Imagine a city where getting around doesn't involve confusing maze of detours. This is the Phoenix we can build, and it sounds like this is the year for it, the 100-year mark for sustainability as well. So this is more than just a traffic issue, as we've heard from the 2 traffic engineers. It's about the future of our city, and we deserve way better, and we deserve a Phoenix that prioritizes safety, fosters connection, and cultivates a thriving local economy. So we hope that we could join forces and raise more, human capital on this issue. And I do want to thank our streets director, who has been very attentive on this and diplomatic. Not all leadership has been as willing to work, and some feign that they even remember ever meeting with us, which is entirely frustrating, especially because I don't actually enjoy doing this. It actually is almost like a part-time job. And a lot of us have very busy lives. These folks that spoke to you today, and some that haven't been able to speak yet, it's a burden for us to come down here. And once again, we don't enjoy doing it. I don't enjoy doing it, at least. But we're hoping that we can work together. And we're hoping that city leadership, and I've had good working relationships with various council members up here before, and I'm really excited about our streets director. But I just want to leave it with that. So, and thank you again for your time.
Thank you so much. Teresa will be our final speaker.
Hello, my name is Teresa Dickinson. I'm the owner of Melrose Pharmacy, so a business that's in the 7th Avenue Melrose District area. I'm also a new resident of District 3 for Deborah, so welcome to me. So I am now in the Royal Palm neighborhood. I now am driving down 7th Avenue every day and up it every evening when I'm driving home from work. So now I'm starting to see the commute side of it. I'm also the vice president of the 7th Avenue Merchants Association. The association is adamantly opposed to the reverse lanes. I would like to see that the reverse lanes go away. I have had people tell me that they won't come to my business just because of the reverse lanes. I think that's a very poor reason to not come to our businesses. In my drive up and down now, I am seeing no reason for the reverse lanes. There's plenty of areas for the people who are speeding in the reverse lane to actually move into the regular traffic lanes. I do see road rage from people who get upset about what's going on there. We don't need new studies. You can do a drive-by yourself and see that how confusing it is every time. I drove at 4:15 the other day and saw probably like 7 to 8 people going the wrong way, and it, lots of horns honking. Many people don't understand it, and people are yelled at all the time. Let's see. If there's people are resistant to getting rid of them, then I suggest to do a trial to get rid of it on 7th Avenue trial, and you will see that it's not going to cause more traffic into the neighborhoods. The neighborhoods already have signs for people not to come into them, just as is. I also even have a picture of a police officer who was in the wrong lane at the wrong time, so that was very interesting. And then I did put a Facebook post out for the Royal Palm neighborhood to kind of get a take of how do they feel about it, and it was pretty much 50-50. Some people liked it, and then there was a lot of people who didn't like it. And then I asked them how would they feel if another neighborhood outside their area made decisions on their neighborhood, on how they should live. And to me, that's just, how can we force another neighborhood for us to have speed to get somewhere? So I just want to make it vocal that I think it's time to get rid of the reverse lanes. With all the people working from home now, it's just not needed anymore. And let's let everybody have a community and be vibrant. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We are adjourned.
As an internal auditor in the city's audit department, then quickly promoted through the department before becoming